What up, ya bing bongs? Kirk Wilcox here, and I recently got a request to talk about conspiracy theories. So in response, I decided to talk about John Oliver's video on climate change, which is about 2 years old, but I remember at the time there were all these articles going around saying that John Oliver schools climate change deniers. So I thought this would be an appropriate video to discuss climate change. So let's start this off. I'm going to start off at about 45 seconds in because John Oliver, in John Oliver fashion, spends the first 25% of this video really talking about nothing.
A White House report that says global warming threatens every part of the U.S.
This isn't something in the distant future. Climate change is already affecting us now.
Now. Smart move, Obama. That is a key shift in how to talk about climate change, because we've all proven that we cannot be trusted with the future tense. We've been repeatedly asked, don't you want to leave a better Earth for your grandchildren? And we've all collectively responded, fuck 'em. But incredibly, this latest damning scientific report may still face an uphill climb with some of us.
There's that Gallup poll that came out last month, which found 1 in 4 Americans is skeptical of all the effects of climate change and thinks this issue's been exaggerated.
Who gives a shit? That doesn't matter. You don't need people's opinions on a fact.
All right, here John Oliver goes attacking a straw man. What Oliver is doing is he's taking a really stupid opinion that a significant amount of people appear to hold, and he's making it sound like that's the opinion and the mindset of everyone who is skeptical and questions these alleged impacts that fossil fuel use and greenhouse gas emissions are going to have on the planet. But I'll address that later on in the video.
You might as well have a poll asking which number is bigger, 15 or 5. Or do owls exist? Or are there hats? The debate on climate change should not be whether or not it exists. It's what we should do about it.
All right, here John Oliver goes again with this shtick of making dumb analogies so that even a toddler can understand his point. So I'm going to do the same thing. Climate change is the dumbest, most redundant fucking term I've ever heard in my entire life. It goes without saying that the climate is changing because the climate never stays the same. It's like saying wet water or smelly fart. These are redundant terms that don't require their adjectives because it goes without saying that a fart is smelly and that water is wet. Much like you don't need to inform people that the climate is changing because the climate never stays the same. And why is this, by the way? Why do they need a vague term like climate change? Is it because the catastrophist predictions have been wrong numerous times over the last 40 years? Like back in the 70s when the alarmists were talking about global cooling and warning everyone to brace themselves for a coming ice age. Well, then temperatures started to go up, and then it was, oh no, it's warming now. Hence the term global warming because of the Industrial Revolution and all of these CO2 emissions and fossil fuels. So now they need a vague term like climate change, so no matter what the weather is or what the trends are, they can sound the alarms. Temperature too hot? Uh-oh, climate change, it's getting warmer. Temperature too cold. See, no, this is an effect of climate change, of using too many fossil fuels. Is it raining too much? Are we getting flash floods? No, see, it's climate change. It's because severe storms is what happens when the climate changes. Is it not raining enough? Are we getting droughts now? See, it's climate change. Droughts are a result of climate change. So no matter what the weather is or what the severe storm is or where the trends are heading, you can just sound the alarms and say, climate change. Woo!
There is a mountain of research on this topic. Global temperatures are rising, heat waves are becoming more common, sea surface temperatures are also rising, glaciers are melting, and of course no climate report is complete without the obligatory photo of a polar bear balancing on a piece of ice. The only accurate way to report that 1 out of 4 Americans are skeptical of global warming is to say, a poll finds that 1 out of 4 Americans are wrong about something. Because a survey of thousands of scientific papers that took a position on climate change found that 97% endorsed the position that humans are causing global warming.
Yes. The report done by Australian blogger John Cook. And I know that's the report John Oliver is citing because he had a screenshot of the report in his show. And this is a report that has been refuted by a variety of scientists whose papers were examined in this study. But even if we're going to take the study at face value and give John Cook the benefit of the doubt, all the study concludes is that the Earth is warming. And it doesn't say to what extent the Earth is warming or how bad or how fast the Earth is warming or how much the Earth is warming. Just says that the Earth is warming and that man-made greenhouse gas emissions are responsible for more than 50% of the warming. That's all it says. It says nothing about severe storms or sea levels rising or droughts or famine. It says nothing about mass extinction. All of that stuff is pure speculation coming from the alarmists. All of the study, the 97% statistic, all it says is that the Earth is warming, doesn't say to what extent, that the Earth is warming and that man-made greenhouse gas emissions are responsible for more than 50% of the warming. And a lot of scientists say that this is pretty innocuous. And don't take my word for it. Take meteorologist Dr. Roy Spencer's word for it when he testified in front of Congress.
I also want to say, since we're talking about most scientists, I've heard 97%, 98%. There's a recent paper by John Cook and co-authors who looked at thousands of research papers which have been published in the scientific literature to see what fraction, support the scientific consensus on global warming. Well, it turns out that the 97% consensus that they found, I am indeed part of. And Senator Sessions mentioned he would agree with it too. And my associate, John Christie, he agrees with it. In fact, all skeptics that I know of that work in this business all are part of that 97% because the 97% includes people who think humans have some influence on climate. Well, that's a fairly innocuous statement. And that's something that continually annoys me is those of us that are called deniers. It's never actually, I think the D word was actually used by the chairman today. It's never actually been pointed out. What is it that we deny? Also, this 97%. Well, what does the 97% consensus mean? What do all of those people agree to? Well, they agree to something fairly innocuous, and it's something that most of us agree to, that humans must have some influence on climate. The question is how much? And how much influence makes all the difference in the world if you're going to be basing policy decisions, carbon taxes, regulations, legislation, whatever, on them. It makes all the difference in the world exactly how much warming we can expect due to human activities.
He must be paid off by the big oil companies. Oh, no.
And I think I know why people still think this issue is open to debate, because on TV, it is. And it's always one person for, one person against. And it's usually the same person for.
Bill Nye and Marsha Blackburn, welcome both of you to Meet the Press.
Bill Nye joins us now, along with climate change skeptic Mark Morano.
Joining me now to go head-to-head, Bill Nye, science educator and CEO of the Planetary Society.
In the crossfire, Bill Nye, the science guy.
Bill Nye, the science guy who believes in man-made global warming.
Yeah, that's right. More often than not, it's Bill Nye, the science guy, versus some dude. And when you look at the screen, it's 50-50, which is inherently misleading. If there has to be a debate about the reality of climate change, and there doesn't, then there is only one mathematically fair way to do it.
Last Week Tonight presents a statistically representative climate change debate.
Good evening. Joining me tonight, a climate change denier and, naturally, Bill Nye science guy.
Bill? John?
Yep.
Humans are causing climate change? No question.
Wait. Before we begin, in the interest of mathematical balance, I'm going to bring out two people who agree with you, climate skeptic, and Bill Nye, I'm also going to bring out 96 other scientists. It's a little unwieldy, but this is the only way you can actually have a representative discussion.
Okay, look, I understand that this is a comedy show and that John Oliver is a comedian and what he's doing right here is a comedy bit, but this was written about and shared as John Oliver destroys climate skeptics. Yeah! So John Oliver's video here has been used to reconfirm people's already held view on climate change, but look at what John Oliver is suggesting here. He's suggesting that it's somehow unfair because the debate is one-on-one and that he needs more voices on his side to drown out the few voices. First of all, science is decided on facts and evidence. And if you have facts and evidence on your side, then you don't need confirmation bias. Just as John Oliver mentioned earlier in the same fucking video.
You don't need people's opinions on a fact.
Galileo wasn't wrong when he discovered that the Earth revolved around the sun, despite the fact that most of the scientists during his time disagreed with him, just like Darwin wasn't wrong when he theorized evolution and got a lot of pushback from the scientific community. Science is decided on facts, evidence, and truth. It's not decided on majority opinion. But you even notice how John Oliver named the skeptic that he brought on his show? Didn't even name him, just said it's some guy.
Good evening. Joining me tonight, a climate change denier and, naturally, Bill Nye Science Guy.
Yeah, way to get a legitimate counter to Bill Nye, John Oliver. Speaking of which, who the fuck is Bill Nye? He's a mechanical engineer that had a kid show during the 90s. Now, I do like Bill Nye, and I know he has a science background, but I'd rather hear a legitimate climate scientist or a meteorologist's view on this subject. Is this the best the catastrophists can do? They can't find a meteorologist or a climate scientist to demonstrate how CO2 emissions are going to have catastrophic results long term. You know, it'd be like if you went to an orthopedic surgeon to get your brain tumor removed, or if you hired a patent attorney to settle your divorce. I think expertise matters in this discussion. Seriously. What did John Oliver say in this entire fucking video? He did not make or confirm any dire predictions. He mentions a bogus study that doesn't make or confirm any dire predictions. He made an outrageous comedy sketch that implied that science be decided by majority opinion rather than facts and evidence. The only thing that John Oliver destroyed in this entire video was a straw man when he mentioned that survey in the beginning. But back to my earlier point, the climate change debate isn't about whether or not the climate is changing, but rather, are CO2 emissions going to have catastrophic results long term, which is an important discussion to have considering that alarmists like Bill McKibben and Al Gore are advocating for reducing fossil fuel use by 80 to 90%. And given that 70% of the world's energy use comes from fossil fuels, this is a big fucking deal. It's not just about a few dollars here or there for oil shareholders or a few dollars here or there at the pump. It's not about saving a few coal mining jobs in the Midwest. No. Energy is our livelihood. It makes our lives better. Energy powers our hospitals. It powers our schools. It powers our factories. It heats our homes. It powers our offices. It makes farming more efficient. It makes food cheaper. Fossil fuels and energy clean our water and make our water safe to drink. I can go on for days about the amazing benefits of fossil fuels. But yes, scientists agree that the Earth is warming and that man-made greenhouse emissions are a contributing factor. But what isn't for certain is the side effects and what the side effects will be, how damaging the side effects will be, and whether or not men can deal with side effects in the future. For instance, if sea levels are rising, well, why wouldn't we be able to irrigate that water to less populated areas? You know, a lot of questions there. But until then, unless you want America and Europe to revert to third world living conditions, then I highly suggest you appreciate that sweet, sweet oil that enriches your life. For more on this subject, I highly recommend checking out Alex Epstein. He has a lot of videos and lectures and debates on YouTube. He also wrote the book, The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels. Check out Alex Epstein. That's all I have to say for today. My name's Kirk Wilcox, and I'm a douche.